Well, that's a good one to end on. That I think that's a great final answer to the questions. I think we can wrap on our questions there. Um,
Yeah.
we have one little segment at the end we call game time. So we thought we'd play a little game called Turn the Tables, where we put the
Okay.
mic in your hand and let you ask any questions you want to ask for us or the fans. If there's anything on your mind, like like you said, like you kind of had this moment in the theater where you get instant feedback. But obviously you don't have that with us. It's kind of a lagging thing. So if you have any in mind, this could be a short game time. We'll see. This whole segment may cut. We'll see.
Okay. Well, I'm curious what people think or what they want to like. What does Isadora's personal life look like? We don't know that much. Like even I guess like Quartermain or like what do you think her background is?
Interesting.
You know.
Do you want to go first, EJ, or shall I?
So a lot of, some of the theories that have been either I've helped put forth or other people in the necro department have put forth are having been maybe in, for instance, Anacostia's unit when first going through basic, and that's where that close, almost familial relationship, like it's the interactions. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, are there any interactions on screen?
With Anacostia?
Yeah.
Other than like in the scene with Scylla, the torture scene with Scylla, I think that was my only scene with Anacostia.
Oh. Well, then there we go. Basically, they created that based on, I guess, the characteristics, and kind of you're talking about that almost maternal feelings that you have for your students and that you care about them, that you and Anacostia have a little bit more of a close friendship versus as just colleagues, that you both care about the units, the squads and whatnot. And honestly, just being a dedicated, I guess, necro practitioner, I guess you could say, because like you had mentioned, Isadora is very closely connected to her thoughts, to her studies, to her connection to the earth. And just that the main thing that she wants to do is basically be able to share that.
Pretty good. I don't know why, but I think something in your performance makes me think that like Isadora strikes me as like a survivor.
Mm-hmm.
She seems very pragmatic, right? Like she's sort of like, whatever she's got some objectives in mind, and she kind of does what she needs to do to like continue that, towards that objective. So it's like, I gotta cut a girl's throat today. I'm gonna cut a girl's throat, right? I'm gonna do this or that. I gotta lie in the rail to kind of get through the thing. And, because I think that she's so versatile. I'm like, I feel like she's just something about her past like makes her adaptable. So I feel like something has happened in Isadora's past to make her sort of just be like, hey, I have to stay scrappy and adaptable to like whatever I need to do. So I don't know if I have like a headcanon yet around what that was. I don't know. I wonder if she has seen combat. I think that'd be an interesting thing if they wanted to explore that in season 2. I don't know if she strikes me as maybe one of those like stays back in the lab and does her experiments, but maybe isn't doing a ton of field work kind of character, but I could be wrong, right? I think it could go either way.
Some of the thoughts that we've been putting out about field work is honestly expeditions out into the wilds with the necro department and living on the land essentially for several days and doing the experimentations and finding other, not necessarily long dead things, but obviously from Scylla's scene, which was so magical in episode 2 when she has the mushroom come up out of the dead bird, just sort of exploring what necro's connection is, not with life but with death or the recent dead. And because obviously, as Isadora said, having a fresh body, so to say, is a very rare thing. So you would still have to be able to figure out ways to explore your specialty with those field exercises.
Yeah. You have great ideas. I have to say, I listened to two or three of your episodes. I was like, wow, they know so much about this world. They know just as much as I do. Great. Yeah. Great. Okay, so what has surprised you the most about Isadora in season 1? What has surprised you the most, and where do you what do you think the first thing, where do you think season 2 is going?
I guess I'll go first this time. What surprised me the most about Izadora was she was closer to the center of power than I expected. Because when you first meet her, she's an instructor. She's kind of like doing her CSI necro business with the bird and all the things. And then, and then all of a sudden she's kind of showing up in the war room with like the biggest general. I'm like, oh, like Alder trusts her. Like, what's this all about? So I thought that was really interesting. And I think in season 2, I suspect the mycelium wall is going to be really important. And I think Isadora's character, I'm hoping, was going to be really tied into exploring what's going on in the mycelium wall, and maybe even having some scenes with Raelle and Abigail, because, like I said, I think that their witch bomb power is tied to the mycelium. So I'd love to see her sort of, I almost like, maybe a little bit of Dr. Frankenstein, like a little, like maybe pushing the boundaries, right? All those science characters, like, for the science, I'm going to do this perhaps morally questionable sort of exercise. Because to your point, like, she does strike me as like a truth seeker, or like someone who's so excited about the end result that she might push some boundaries that other people would be uncomfortable with. So I think that I would love to see that kind of dynamic for a character like that. And I think it would sort of dovetail nicely with where I think there's a lot of plots, but I think that's where the show needs to go. So
for me, it was kind of, to Jesse's point, episode 4, it had been kind of placed, Isadora had been placed as almost just like an instructor type. As we started seeing more of her in 6 and 7, though, I don't know why, but for some reason I had the feeling that Isadora was the spree double agent that all of us have a theory about, because someone obviously came in and had to fix Scylla's mess with Porter. So who better to do that than the necro instructor? Maybe alter his memories or do something to that effect. So that was where a lot of my thought had been, but seeing the interaction with Raelle, but especially given that she is kind of lying to her, being able to communicate the care that Isadora still has for these circumstances. Because in my head, when when Scylla was pretending that she was Helen Graves and saying that she is the best necro student in her year, I had put it in my head that she would have a close relationship with Isadora still. So for Isadora then to be having to lie to someone that she feels her student is very close to, and being able to still show that care to and still lie to, it just pulled the heartstrings basically quite a bit.
I love all of this.
Yeah, I can see Scylla also coming into play with Isadora, because like, yeah, I think I do agree that, like, presumably she was probably like a star student when she came through, or was in the class with Isadora. So now that, Scylla's out in the world sort of doing her thing with the spree, I think that's another place where they might turn to a character like Isadora to be like, tell us more about like how this kid thinks, or like where her head's at, since you probably know her better than some of the other instructors. So I think that'd be good too. I'd love to see that.
Honestly, just more Scylla and Isadora scenes would be awesome.
Yeah.
Or any.
Yeah, more, flashbacks, whatever.
Yeah.
Amazing. All right, you have one more question, or should we wrap?
Trying to think if I have any other questions. I don't think I do, actually. I think these are great. I feel fulfilled with everything that you just said. Yeah, that's
Awesome.
Great.
All right, awesome.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, we were so excited when you said yes to be on the show. I couldn't think of a better first guest for us, honestly. It's been really, thank you so much for taking the time. Your performance has really had a major impact on the fandom. I think, you should be really proud of the work you and the rest of the cast and the showrunners have done. I think it's just, there's something really special in the show, and we're all like 7 seasons in a movie, fingers crossed, if it all goes well. So,
Well,
um,
thank you so much for your amazing work and your dedication, and thank you also to all the fans, the Necro Squad, the research Necro department. I'm just so overwhelmed with all the love pouring in, and it feels so nice. I mean, yeah, it really does to get all that support, and um, yeah, I just want to thank everyone for showing their love, all the switches.
Switches Nation.
Yes.
Laura. So, all
Yes.
right.
Thank you so much.
Well, we're excited to see what you get up to in season 2. Thank you, everybody out there in the fandom, for listening. If you like the show, we're going to tweet out a whole bunch of links around this. So you should know, you should be following Emilie anyway on Twitter. But if you're not, we'll tweet her link out, or her profile out. We'll tweet out a link to the YouTube talk. That sounds amazing. So you all have homework. Go watch the Mycelium talk, the TED talk about mycelium. That's from Emilie. You can follow us on Twitter at FSWitchingHour. Give Emilie some love. Thank you so much for being a guest again. We really appreciate it. We hope you all have a terrific day out there in Fort Salem Nation. We hope you enjoyed this amazing hour plus with Emilie. Thank you so much again. Much gratitude. And you all have a terrific witching day. Stop.